Well, good morning, folks. Welcome back to What's Cooking in Bert's Kitchen. Today, we're going to work with some barbecue. So this video is going to be a little longer than most of my videos. There's a few things we need to discuss. Barbecue is really not that difficult, but there's a whole lot of theories out there on it. And we're going to try and debunk a few myths and show you an easier way to do it. I live in Florida. The weather's usually pretty good for barbecuing year-round, but a lot of my friends are up in the north, and the weather just isn't compatible for breaking out the grill, etc., etc. So we're going to show you how to do some of this right inside your house. Now, the first thing we need to consider is our barbecue rub. This is the secret to all barbecue. So, I'm going to show you how to make a really, really good dry rub today that is just, it's going to be one of your go-tos. Trust me, when you do barbecue, you'll be able to do it inside the house, even in the middle of February, in the middle of a blizzard, you'll be able to do it. We're going to do a little bit of math here. The simple recipe for this barbecue rub is going to be 8 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1. Now I'll explain that as we go along. The first thing we're going to need is 1 cup of brown sugar, dark or light, whichever you happen to have. When you're measuring out your brown sugar, make sure you pack it in there, because brown sugar has regular sugar and a little bit of molasses in it. Make sure you pack it in there so you get an accurate measurement. Now the brown sugar is our 8 parts. So 1 cup, you can obviously extrapolate that 1 part is 1/8 of a cup, or 2 tablespoons. The next, so there's 8. The next part is 2, which by our math would be 1/4 cup, and that is going to be salt. And there we have 1/4 cup of salt. Again, the next part is going to be 2, which again is going to be 1/4 cup, and that 1/4 cup is going to be chili powder. And there we have 1/4 cup of chili powder. Now, here's where we need to pay attention, because we now are down to 8 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1. So we're down to the 1 part. And that would be 1/8 of a cup, or 2 tablespoons, or a tablespoon being 3 teaspoons, that would be 6 teaspoons. We're going to break this up into several. This is where we're going to really add some flavor and speciality to our particular barbecue rub. So we've got 6 teaspoons that we're going to deal with. 2 of those teaspoons are going to be garlic powder. The other 2 teaspoons are going to be cumin. Now this cumin is going to add a real smoky flavor to your barbecue rub here, which is essentially making good barbecue. Most people don't own a smoker, but you want that smoky flavor. It's essential to barbecue. The cumin is going to help that. The next 1 teaspoon is going to be onion powder. We're going to use 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. So now we're left down to 1/2 teaspoon. We're going to break that down into 2 parts, which would be 1/4 teaspoon each. 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Give it a little bite. Nothing here that's out of the ordinary so far. 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon is going to make this, and I know it doesn't seem like much, but it is going to make this just over the top a great barbecue dry rub. Now you can use this on chicken, you can use this on pork, you can use it on beef, whatever you want to put a nice barbecue taste to. So let's get that all mixed up nice. Since you packed your brown sugar, you're going to want to break this up real good because it can get lumpy. Running it through a sieve is not going to help because the brown sugar being so moist is just going to not push through the sieve. It's just going to crowd up your sieve. Now you can do this in a food processor or a blender even, or however you want to do it. I just happen to prefer and like working with food, so I'll get my hands in there. You can even get your bare hands in there and just kind of grind it all up and mix it. And there we have just one beautiful barbecue rub. Trust me, this is going to be the secret to everything we do. Now let us discuss the meat we're dealing with here. Today I'm not doing ribs. I'm going to do a pork loin. I'm going to do it in a slow cooker. You just rub this thing down, get it in the slow cooker, let it cook all day. When you get home from work, take about 30 minutes to get it through the, get it shredded up, throw it in the oven. The piece of meat I'm dealing with today is a boneless pork loin. Okay? Now, barbecue, when it's done, you get pulled pork. Usually is a pork shoulder, sometimes called the pork butt, but it's the pork shoulder, which is a much fattier piece of meat, responds well to low, slow cooking in an oven or a smoker. I happen to have this pork loin, so I'm going to use that. Now don't confuse this pork loin with a pork tenderloin. A tenderloin is usually a small, thin piece of meat that has little or no fat content to it whatsoever, will not respond to this kind of cooking. The pork tenderloin will be never more than 1.5 or 2 pounds. So if you find a piece of meat that's 3.5 or 4 pounds and it says pork tenderloin on it, it's probably just a boneless pork loin like what I've got here. Mistakes are made everywhere. The FDA is not standing over them, checking what they're putting on the label, and sometimes mistakes are made. This is a way that you can make sure you know what you're getting. Alright, so we have a pork tenderloin here, or a pork loin, excuse me, not a pork tenderloin, a pork loin, which we're going to place in this pan. Now the first thing you want to do is get some paper towels and just pat your pork loin dry. Now we want to apply our dry rub. Here's where you want to pay a little bit of attention. Much like when I was showing you how to do fried chicken, you want one hand dry, one hand wet. There's a reason for this. You want to grab a handful with your dry hand and get it on in a nice thick layer on your pork. Now using your wet hand, you want to rub it into the pork. Get it into all the little pockets and creases everywhere and get it a good amount Okay, so the next thing now that we want is we want a good barbecue sauce. It's a really simple thing to make. We'll get a little pan on the stove. You're going to want about a cup of ketchup. You're going to want about a quarter cup of apple cider vinegar. Red wine vinegar will work just fine. And you're going to want about a quarter cup of your barbecue spice. Get it in there. Now, if you wanted to, you could slice up some onion real thin or dice it up and put it in there and let it saute down with this. But get that to a simmer and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. Okay, so our barbecue sauce is simmered for about 15 minutes. Let's get the heat off of it. Let's get everything into the crock pot. Now you can do all of this kind of stuff the night before. You can even dry rub your roast the night before. Put it into a Ziploc bag and just let it sit in the fridge. The flavors will marry into the meat even more. We want to get it into this crock pot. So in order to get my roast in there, I'm going to have to cut it into 2 pieces. Not a problem. We've got that in there. Pour our barbecue sauce over the top of it. Set it on low, put the lid on, let it cook all day. Okay folks, so our pork loins have been cooking all day long, 6, 7, 8 hours. They're nice and tender now. I got home a little bit before dinner time. Going to show you how we're going to deal with this, and then we'll just put it right back into the slow cooker and let it stay nice and warm for when we're ready to have dinner. Now as you recall, I broke this up into 2 pieces. And this is the pan that we used earlier for putting the dry rub into our pork. Put our 2 pieces in there. Just wash it out good before you use it again, because you had raw pork in it before. You don't want any of those contaminants to obviously get into your cooked food that you're going to serve. What you'll need is 2 forks. With these 2 forks, just start pulling at your pork to shred it up. Now you may have a little difficulty with the fat layer on it, but the reason I didn't cut the fat layer off of this previously is because, well, fat is where all the flavor is contained. And we wanted that in our sauce and in our pork. So just take a little time, make sure you get this all pulled and shredded apart. Obviously we want to do it in this pan, so that way we don't have to go chasing little pieces of pork all around our kitchen. Of course, if you have a dog, you may not have that issue. Okay, so we've shredded up all of this pork. Now we're just going to place it right back into the same cooked sauce, right back into the crock pot, keeping it on low. Get it all well mixed in there, nice and barbecue coated. Keep it all nice and moist. You make a mess, be sure to clean it up. Get every last little bit, because man, is this stuff good. So there we have it, a nice pulled pork. Took you a couple of minutes of time in the morning or the night before. You throw it in the crock pot, go to work, go do your business all day, come home, takes a few minutes, shred it up, everything's ready to go. Serve it with some French fries or on a nice burger bun with maybe a salad or some greens, and you'll have yourself a perfect barbecue meal any time of the year. As for the rest of your barbecue spice, place that in an airtight container or a bag, stick it in your pantry. It'll last you for 4, 5, 6 weeks. Thank you for stopping by and checking out our video, spending a little time with us today. I hope you learned a little something. I hope we entertained you a little bit. Please stop back next time and see what's cooking in Bert's Kitchen.